Right now, I might take this opportunity to tell you about Spomophilus meleagris, a spineless, soulless creature that strikes horror into the hearts of...
For nearly a decade, Discovery's Dirty Jobs shined a spotlight on the most grueling trades in America. But the true soul of the show was the hardworking people behind the scenes. Viewers welcomed these everyday heroes into their living rooms, building a connection with them that lasted long after the cameras stopped rolling. But behind the success of the series lies a heartbreaking reality. Over the years, many of the show's most unforgettable faces have sadly passed away, leaving behind remarkable stories and lasting legacies. Who were these beloved members of the Dirty Jobs family, and what really happened to them? Join us as we honor their lives and uncover the stories behind their untimely passings. Captain Wayne Magwood. One of the men who truly embodied the spirit of Dirty Jobs was Captain Edwin Wayne Magwood. When Mike Rowe stepped aboard the Winds of Fortune in Season 2, he met a man who had spent his entire life doing one of the world's toughest and most dangerous jobs. Wayne wasn't chasing fame. He simply loved the life he had inherited, even though it came with risks that most people would never dare face. Sadly, after surviving those dangers for decades, his story would end in the last way anyone expected. Like his father before him, Wayne made a living on the water. Long before sunrise, he was already steering his 68-foot commercial shrimp boat through rough seas and harsh weather, heading for what he called his secret place, where the best shrimp could be hauled up in heavy nets. Working aboard the Winds of Fortune meant facing danger almost every day. But Wayne never backed down. Shrimping wasn't just his job, it was part of who he was. Ironically, it wasn't the sea that claimed his life. At 67, Wayne was crossing Coleman Boulevard near Mill Street, just a short distance from the Shem Creek docks his family had built nearly 50 years earlier, when he was struck by a passing propane truck. He had simply been on his way to the docks. Even more heartbreaking, the driver later told police he hadn't realized he had hit anyone. After everything Wayne had survived on the water, his life ended on an ordinary road near the place he loved most. The industry he dedicated his life to had also changed dramatically. During shrimping's peak, more than 70 commercial boats worked out of Shem Creek, with boats like the Winds of Fortune bringing in as much as 10,000 pounds of shrimp in a day. Over time, foreign imports, farm-raised shrimp, rising fuel costs, and tighter government regulations pushed many fishermen out of business. Only a handful of boats remained, and an average catch of around 500 pounds became the new reality. Still, Wayne refused to walk away. Throughout every 9-month shrimp season, he stayed at the helm of the Winds of Fortune, selling much of his catch through his Team Magwood Facebook page. Whether he was teaching future captains aboard his boat or sharing stories with visitors on shore, he earned the respect and friendship of everyone around him. Mike Rowe never forgot him. Looking back, Rowe remembered this was years before Deadliest Catch, when most fishing captains wouldn't dream of letting a television crew on board. Wayne welcomed them anyway, because he genuinely loved his boat, his hometown, and his work. And that passion came through in every moment they shared. In a heartfelt tribute, Rowe reflected that Wayne probably never imagined his life would end the way it did, adding that, as Captain Phil Harris once observed, even captains don't get to choose the manner of their passing. He believed Wayne knew he was a legend in the shrimping world, but hoped he also understood the lasting impact he had on television. Rowe ended by saying that he and his mother would miss Wayne's pirate ass. Sadly, Wayne Magwood's heartbreaking story is only the first of several unforgettable Dirty Jobs faces whose lives ended far too soon. Another guest, who left an undeniable mark on the show, was a man who braved an entirely different kind of danger every single day. Keep watching to see how a fearless handler named Ian Renton captured the hearts of millions by making one of the most perilous jobs on Earth look completely effortless. Ian Renton. Some Dirty Jobs episodes stayed with viewers because of the job itself. Others were unforgettable because of the people behind them. Ian Renton was one of those people. When he appeared on the show, he gave millions of viewers a close look at one of the world's most dangerous occupations, working with highly venomous snakes. It was a job that demanded steady hands, deep knowledge, and complete respect for animals that could turn deadly in an instant. Watching Ian at work, it was easy to see why Mike Rowe admired him. He approached every snake with confidence, patience, and remarkable skill, making an incredibly dangerous profession look calm and controlled. But what stood out even more than his expertise was his willingness to teach. Rather than keeping his knowledge to himself, Ian welcomed the Dirty Jobs crew into his world, helping viewers understand the risks, responsibilities, and dedication his work required. Sadly, Ian's greatest battle wasn't against the deadly creatures he handled so fearlessly. He later lost his life after battling leukemia, a heartbreaking ending for someone who had spent years facing dangers that most people could hardly imagine. News of his passing deeply affected Mike Rowe, who remembered Ian as far more than just another guest on the show. In a heartfelt tribute, Rowe described Ian as a warm and gracious host who made the entire crew feel welcome from the moment they arrived. He remembered him as someone who genuinely loved what he did and took real pride in sharing his experience with others. That passion left a lasting impression, not only on those who worked beside him, but also on the millions of viewers who watched him. Although his time on Dirty Jobs lasted only one episode, Ian Renton's story remains another reminder that some of the show's most unforgettable faces are no longer with us. Cash Wiley. Some jobs on Dirty Jobs required people to face dangerous machines. Others demanded something even more unpredictable: wild animals. That was the world Cash Wiley knew better than most. When he appeared on the series, the Texas animal expert gave Mike Rowe a first-hand look at what it takes to safely sedate, capture, and relocate large exotic animals. It was challenging work that required patience, experience, and complete confidence, and Cash handled it with ease. Viewers quickly saw why he was so respected. Whether he was dealing with powerful animals or explaining the safest way to move them, Cash's calm approach made an incredibly risky job look almost effortless. His passion for wildlife had taken him around the world, where he worked with animals ranging from household dogs to massive elephants. Every experience only strengthened his reputation as someone who truly understood the creatures in his care. Sadly, Cash Wiley passed away at his home in Wills Point, Texas, on Easter Sunday, April 5, 2015. He was just 43 years old and was surrounded by the people who loved him most. Following his passing, those closest to him honored his final wishes by creating a memorial lion exhibit fund at Sharkarosa Wildlife Ranch in Pilot Point, Texas, where he had worked. Although his life was cut far too short, his love for animals and the unforgettable impression he left on Dirty Jobs continue to live on. But while the show celebrated the incredible people who kept these essential industries running, the man hosting it was secretly fighting his own uphill battle just to get their stories on the air. Mike Rowe. Looking back today, it's hard to imagine Dirty Jobs ever struggling to find an audience. The series became one of Discovery's biggest hits and turned Mike Rowe into one of television's most recognizable hosts. But the road to that success was much longer than most viewers realize, and the idea behind the show began years before anyone had ever heard of Dirty Jobs. Long before he was climbing into sewers, or working alongside crab fishermen, Rowe built his career doing narration work and hosting smaller television projects. One of those local TV jobs featured a segment called Somebody's Gotta Do It, where he highlighted people with unusual and demanding occupations. The concept struck a chord, and it eventually became the foundation for what would later grow into Dirty Jobs. Even after the show premiered in 2003, success didn't come overnight. It took several years before the series truly found its audience. As the show grew, Rowe noticed something that would shape the rest of his career. He believed America had slowly created a divide between blue-collar and white-collar work by removing hands-on classes from schools. According to Rowe, taking shop classes out of high schools created a growing skills gap that is still affecting the workforce today. Rather than simply talking about the problem, Dirty Jobs gave viewers a chance to see it for themselves. Every episode introduced hardworking men and women whose essential jobs often went unnoticed. While audiences enjoyed watching Rowe crawl through sewers, clean, filthy work sites, and tackle jobs most people avoided, the series quietly highlighted just how valuable skilled workers really were. Rowe later reflected that the show's growing popularity happened at exactly the right time. By 2008, Dirty Jobs had been on the air for 5 years and had finally become a major hit. Then, the housing crisis pushed the country into a recession, bringing labor shortages and skilled trades into national conversations. Suddenly, people wanted Rowe's opinion on issues he had been hearing about for years from the workers featured on his show. He explained that his views weren't formed in an office or a classroom. They came from spending countless hours with small business owners and skilled workers, listening as they talked about the everyday challenges of finding qualified employees and keeping their businesses running. Those conversations became just as important as the jobs themselves. Although Dirty Jobs ended its original run in 2012 before eventually returning on Discovery Plus, its impact never disappeared. The show not only transformed Mike Rowe's career, but also inspired him to create the Mike Rowe Works Foundation, which helps young people pursue skilled trades instead of feeling that college is their only path. What started as a simple television idea ultimately became something much bigger, changing the conversation around essential work and giving millions of people a new appreciation for the men and women who keep the world running. David M. Barsky. While Mike Rowe became the face of Dirty Jobs, there were also people working behind the scenes whose dedication helped turn the series into a television classic. One of the most important was producer David M. Barsky, a man who poured years of his life into making the show a success. Born on July 27, 1970, in Norwood, Massachusetts, Barsky built a career as a producer and production manager, working on projects including Mail Call, Dirty Jobs, and Food Interrupted. Away from television, he married Valerie Barsky in 2003. But to Dirty Jobs fans, he became known as one of the driving forces behind the series. In 2020, Mike Rowe shared just how much Barsky meant to the show in a heartfelt birthday tribute. Rowe reflected that, apart from himself, no one cared more about Dirty Jobs or sacrificed more to keep it on the air than Dave Barsky. When Rowe asked what he wanted for his 50th birthday, Barsky didn't ask for gifts or a celebration. Instead, he simply hoped that every Dirty Jobs fan would tune in to watch Part 4 of Dirty Jobs, Road Trip. Rowe admitted that Barsky truly loved the show and its loyal audience. He encouraged fans to make his birthday wish come true by joining the old crew for another trip down memory lane, revisiting some of the unforgettable moments that nearly got them into serious trouble. It was a fitting tribute to one of the hard-working people who helped make Dirty Jobs possible. Doug Glover. Capturing the reality of Dirty Jobs wasn't just about pointing a camera and pressing record. It took someone willing to crawl into impossible places, brave filthy conditions, and somehow keep filming while chaos unfolded all around him. That someone was Doug, the gifted cinematographer who helped bring many of the show's most unforgettable moments to life. Over the years, Doug worked through just about every challenge imaginable. He filmed from towering heights, squeezed into cramped spaces, stood in soaking wet conditions, and often ended the day with camera lenses covered in animal waste. It wasn't the kind of work most filmmakers dream about, but Doug never backed away from it. According to Mike Rowe, Doug's toughest assignment wasn't the dangerous locations. It was Mike himself. Rowe hated anything that felt staged, refusing second takes and choosing real moments over polished television. Doug admired that commitment to authenticity, but as a cinematographer, he also wanted every shot to look its best. The friendly tug-of-war between them became a running joke behind the scenes. One day, Doug found the perfect solution. He borrowed one of Rowe's bobbleheads, mounted it on his dashboard, and lit it exactly the way he wanted. Smiling, he joked that it was the only version of Mike Rowe that stood where he was told, did what he was told, and finally, kept quiet. It was a hilarious moment that perfectly summed up their friendship and the behind-the-scenes chemistry that made Dirty Jobs feel so genuine. But Doug wasn't the only creative force working behind the lens to capture the raw, unscripted reality of the show. Another key crew member spent years standing just inches away from the chaos, risking his own safety to bring these incredible stories to life. Stick around to see how cinematographer Troy Paff risked it all to capture the most dangerous jobs on television, earning an Emmy nomination along the way. Troy Paff. Some of the most unforgettable moments on Dirty Jobs happened because someone was willing to stand just a few feet away and capture them. Troy Paff was one of those people. As a cinematographer and director of photography, he spent years following Mike Rowe into some of the dirtiest, toughest, and most unpredictable workplaces imaginable, helping bring the show's unique stories to life. Paff built a career documenting real people and real experiences, earning a reputation for his work in nonfiction television. His talent didn't go unnoticed. In 2007, he received a Primetime Emmy nomination for Outstanding Cinematography for reality programming for the Dirty Jobs episode. Mule Logger, recognition of the skill it took to film dangerous and demanding jobs while making viewers feel as though they were right there alongside the crew. His partnership with Mike Rowe continued long after the original run of Dirty Jobs. Paff returned for Dirty Jobs, Road Trip in 2020, once again helping capture the adventures that fans had come to love. Beyond Dirty Jobs, he also worked on popular programs like Bizarre Foods with Andrew Zimmern and The Zimmern List, before expanding into directing with the 2023 documentary Texas Music Revolution. More than 2 decades into his career, Troy Paff continues telling authentic stories through film, proving that the people behind the camera can be just as important as the ones standing in front of it. Christopher Jones. Every unforgettable moment on Dirty Jobs depended on more than just what viewers could see. Someone also had to capture every conversation, every joke, and every unforgettable sound that made the series feel so real. That responsibility often fell to Christopher Jones, the show's longtime audio technician and sound supervisor. For years, Jones worked behind the scenes, making sure every episode sounded as authentic as the jobs themselves. Whether the crew was inside noisy factories, crawling through cramped spaces, or standing next to heavy machinery, he played a key role in bringing those experiences to viewers at home. His work may have stayed out of the spotlight, but it became an essential part of what made Dirty Jobs so immersive. His partnership with Mike Rowe didn't end when the original series wrapped. Jones also reunited with the crew for Dirty Jobs, Road Trip, helping revisit some of the show's most memorable adventures while once again working behind the scenes to keep everything running smoothly. Unlike many of the familiar faces connected to Dirty Jobs, Christopher Jones remains active in the entertainment industry today. He continues working as a production sound mixer on television and documentary projects, most recently contributing to the 2026 release Mineshaft: The Cruising Murders. His career is a reminder that some of the most important people on Dirty Jobs were rarely seen on camera, yet their work was impossible to overlook. But while Christopher Jones spent his career capturing the perfect sounds of the workforce, the show eventually introduced viewers to a man who didn't care about making a mess or a smell as long as he got the job done. Bob Combs. Bob Combs wasn't just another guest on Dirty Jobs. To many viewers, he became one of the most unforgettable people ever featured on the series. As the owner of RC Farms in North Las Vegas, Bob spent decades proving that one person's creativity and determination could turn what others considered waste into something valuable. For nearly 50 years, Bob built his farm around an idea that was as simple as it was brilliant. Instead of relying entirely on expensive grain, he collected leftover buffet food from Las Vegas casinos and transformed it into feed for hundreds of pigs. At the heart of his operation was an enormous homemade cooker, built by Bob himself using scrap parts gathered from junkyards. Conveyor belts carried food scraps into a giant 3-story cooking pot, where everything was slowly boiled into nutritious pig feed. It was an unusual system, but one that worked remarkably well. Life at RC Farms was unlike anywhere else. The property was filled with mud, old machinery, towering silos, and the constant sound of hundreds of hungry pigs waiting to be fed. While the surroundings were far from glamorous, Bob never saw them that way. He took enormous pride in his work and approached every day with the same dedication and practical mindset that had kept his farm running for decades. Beyond raising pigs, Bob also became an unexpected champion of conservation. Long before reducing waste became a major talking point, he was recycling countless tons of uneaten food that would otherwise have ended up in landfills. His practical approach not only lowered costs, but also helped reduce waste on a massive scale. It was that combination of hard work and humility that made Bob Combs such a memorable figure on Dirty Jobs. He didn't seek recognition or attention. He simply devoted his life to doing an essential job the best way he knew how, leaving behind an example of resourcefulness that continues to inspire long after the cameras stopped rolling. Kristen Stanford. Not every Dirty Jobs guest was covered in grease or surrounded by heavy machinery. Some worked to protect nature, and Kristen Stanford was one of them. When she appeared on Dirty Jobs with Mike Rowe in 2006, she introduced viewers to the demanding world of wildlife research, helping shine a spotlight on the important work being done around Lake Erie. Kristen's journey began while she was a graduate student at Northern Illinois University, where she studied garter snakes. Her mentor, longtime water snake researcher Richard King, encouraged her to continue her research by relocating to the Lake Erie Islands. After earning her master's degree in 2002, she stayed on as a full-time research associate with support from the Ohio Department of Natural Resources Division of Wildlife and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Her dedication to protecting wildlife earned widespread recognition. In 2012, Kristen received the Wildlife Diversity Conservation Award at the Wildlife Diversity Conference in Columbus, honoring her outstanding contributions to conservation. She also went on to serve as an outreach and education coordinator at Stone Laboratory, where she continued sharing her knowledge and inspiring others to appreciate and protect the region's wildlife. Although many viewers remember Kristen from her appearance on Dirty Jobs, her impact reaches far beyond television. Through years of research, education, and conservation work, she has helped protect one of Ohio's unique ecosystems while encouraging future generations to value the wildlife that calls it home. What name on the list shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, click the next video shown on your screen. You will enjoy it.